Father is a new comedy starring Sebastian Maniscalco and Robert De Niro. In this movie, Sebastian Maniscalco has this very serious girlfriend that he plans on proposing to her at her lake house, well really her family's lake house on the 4th of July weekend. It was the 4th of July Memorial Day weekend. I don't know, it was one of those. His father, played by Robert De Niro, is a very traditional Italian man. He's like, well, if you're gonna propose to this girl, I gotta meet her parents, I gotta meet this family, I gotta see what you're marrying into. So he comes along with him to this trip, so now it's the two of them trying to learn how to live together under this very different family's roof. I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy. There are a lot of stand-up comedians that I am a huge fan of because I love to laugh. I love comedy, and I have a real admiration for stand-up comedians. People who can just go on stage in front of a bunch of people and tell a story or tell a joke that just has an entire audience full of people dying laughing. That's remarkable. It's a talent that very few people have, and even fewer people are very successful with. I have my list of comedians who I'm a huge fan of, people whose specials when they're out, I make sure to watch them. I try to see them live whenever I get the chance to. Sebastian Maniscalco, however, is one of the comedians that I'm not too familiar with. I'll be honest, I haven't seen any of his specials. I don't really know a whole lot about what his style is. From what I know, he's a very Italian man, has a very Italian family, so he makes fun of stereotypes and his family and what his life was like growing up. But naturally, he's gotten famous enough that he's been given the chance to give us this movie that's supposed to be loosely based off of his life. And as far as this movie goes, I will say this much right now. If someone was going to introduce me to Sebastian Maniscalco's comedy and want to win me over, this movie's not the way to do it. Getting right into it out the gate, I'm going to say this right now. Sebastian Maniscalco, Robert De Niro, I didn't really feel a lot of great chemistry with them. I mean, I get it. Robert De Niro is supposed to be the cold father towards Sebastian Maniscalco, so, you know, there's not really a whole lot of warmth or love between the two of them anyway. But the whole time, I never really felt like a real father-son relationship was there. I mean, just because it's not a really warm and fuzzy one, you should see some kind of chemistry there. You should see something between the two of them that makes you go, yeah, you two are related, that's for sure. I never really bought into it though. I never really felt like the two of them had a real father-son relationship, and I never really felt like one grew over the course of the movie. Also, yeah, I explained to you the gist of the movie. The premise of this movie is completely unoriginal. It is something we have seen a million times over. A guy's in love with this girl, he wants to marry her, he's gonna meet her family, his family has to meet her family. How many times have we seen that in a movie? I mean, you could write a book about the amount of times we've seen that in a movie. And unfortunately, the sad reality is, a lot of those movies probably did it a lot better. Also, this being a comedy, especially one that's written and starring a famous stand-up comedian, I would expect there to be a lot of laughs in this movie. I would at least go into here and laugh my ass off. And I will say this much, I'm not gonna stand up here and be a dick and say there were no funny moments whatsoever in this movie. There were moments where I was chuckling, but there was never one moment where I was falling out of my seat in stitches. And that's really the merit on how you judge a comedy. It's like, how much are you laughing? How hard are you laughing? How effective is the movie? And for me, it wasn't all that much. In a lot of ways, when you watch this movie, you can kind of see how it's based off of Sebastian Maniscalco's comedy routine, because you see certain moments, you see certain scenes, and you're like, that's probably a joke, or based off a joke, straight out of one of his specials. And the problem is, when comedians make movies that are based off of their life, or based off of their specials, or something along those lines, typically when you hear the joke in a special, it hits you a little more differently because you're just hearing someone tell you a story, so you're kind of just picturing what this person is telling you in your mind, and as a result of that, your mind's maybe taking it to extreme places and you're laughing even harder because of that. This movie decides to be like, okay, here's the joke that he would have told, we're just gonna show it to you in its entirety, and it kind of takes a little bit of that magic away. And I get it, that's the whole point of movies. It's like, well, movies are meant to actually show you. It's not like reading a book or listening to something or seeing someone tell you a story or something like that. In this case, it's not meant to be pictured in your mind, it's supposed to be shown to you. I do understand that, but that does make me now think, it's like, maybe stand-up comedians' specials or concepts of their specials shouldn't be shown in a movie. Those are some things that should just be left to imagination because it will hit you in a different way. Also, from my own perspective, again, I'm not a die-hard Sebastian Maniscalco fan. I don't really know much about his specials or his routine or anything along those lines, but I will say this much. Part of me feels like with his specials, at least what I'm taking away from this movie, his goal is really to make you laugh. He doesn't really make you think. He doesn't really make you wonder or anything like that. I'm not saying that comedians are supposed to do that. But because of that, if you're going to take that kind of routine and put it into a movie, it's just going to make for a very generic, bland kind of movie. Let me get into another one of my favorite comedians for a second, Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson gave us a movie, The King of Staten Island, which is supposed to be loosely based off his life, how he dealt with the loss of his dad, how he was learning how to really just grow up and move on with his life. Because Pete Davidson has a really dark comedic tone, a lot of his specials are really fucked up in their jokes and things like that, you can actually make for a very intriguing movie in that sense. Because with a movie like The King of Staten Island, you get a movie that's really funny, but it's also really dark, and it's really dramatic, and it's really heavy. Therefore, you can have that blend where it feels like a comedy special, but also feels like kind of a serious drama at the same time, and you splat something together like that, it actually makes for a pretty good movie. This movie just went for taking a stand-up special and turning it into a movie, and it became a very predictable, generic comedy that didn't bring for a real big amount of laughs. So all in all, about my father, I just didn't like this one. I didn't really feel a lot of chemistry in the cast. No one was really playing off one another's comedic timing to really hit a point home or hit a joke home that could have really made the comedy in this movie better. Chuckled in some parts, was never really laughing in some parts. I could completely predict the plot of this movie from start to finish. And really, in the end, it just felt like a stand-up special being translated into a movie, and it just didn't have the same effect as I imagine a special probably would. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.